Welcome to the session on qualitative research methods and techniques or tools of data collection. Let us recollect what has been said about the difference between method and tool or technique. Methodology provides general paradigm, and the method gives the rules and procedures to be adapted in the process of data collection. Methods are different in different research paradigms. In qualitative research, there are some kinds of methods, and in the quantitative research, there are some other kinds of research which are specific to these researchers. However, both qualitative and quantitative researchers use some techniques, some tools for data collection in few cases, like interview. Interview is used as a technique in quantitative analysis as well as in the quantitative research and as well as qualitative research. Similarly, observation as a technique for data collection is used in qualitative research as well as the quantitative research. Now, coming to the specific methods used in qualitative research, we find ethnographic method, action research, case study, conversational analysis, phenomenological method, phenomenographic method, biographical research method, ethnomethodology, grounded theory, hermeneutics, lifeworld analysis, narrative research, and genealogical methods. Well, now it should be remembered, when this one particular method is used as a broad framework, the entire research goes under that particular paradigm. Then the method becomes a tool in that particular research. Well, in some cases, some researchers, qualitative researchers, employ more than one method. However, one particular method could be major one, the others becomes the secondary. So, in such case, there will be more than one method in a particular particular qualitative research, and each method employs a different kinds of tools and techniques. Important tools and techniques used in qualitative research include interview, focus group, observation, document study, participatory rural appraisal called PRA, and rapid rural appraisal RRA, Rorschach test, and thematic apperception test. There are many other also which are not usually used but rarely used, which are not discussed at present. Now, to get into the details of the methods, let us begin with ethnographic method. It adapts emic perspective, that is the people's perspective. It takes the holism as a kind of important principle for guiding the research. Then ethnography also focuses on a natural setting. It is experiential research. That means the researcher experiences what the people experience. For example, if the community is experiencing poverty, lack of food, well, a researcher, when doing his research, possible that he or she can experience what is the meaning of poverty. Then ethnographic research is subjective. It is experience of the researcher as well as the respondent. It is interpretive because the research needs to be described and explained. In some cases, the research is carried out in multiple locations, and this is nowadays called multi-sited ethnographic method. In this ethnographic method, the important techniques used are participant observation, in-depth interviews, focus group discussions, sometimes even short survey like household surveys, and case studies are also used, and case histories are also used, even conversational analysis is also used, genealogy also used, and some psychological tests are also employed in the ethnographic method. Action research is very important research activity in social sciences. It studies the problem of the community. So, researchers studies the problem of the community and also suggest solutions which are implemented by the researcher. And since the problem is to be studied and then solution to be found and implemented, it takes a long time and a long engagement of the researcher with the community. Also, it requires the participation of the community. That means the researcher will have to ensure that the people participate in the research, in sharing their knowledge and also experiencing the changes and suggesting the modifications. Finally, we can see action research combines research as well as action. And action, in fact, contributes for better understanding of the community and thus helps in theory building. So, in action research, what are the techniques used for data collection? It employs in-depth interviews, focus group discussion, observation, and short surveys. The next important method is case study or extended case study. The case study is holistic. Generally, case study focuses on one unit or a few units, but mostly one unit, and it is an in-depth study. So, the unit of analysis usually a group or a community or a village or an institution. So, case study focuses on the exploration of a complex issue related to the group or to the community. And through this exploration, it gains a thorough understanding of the situation. Well, the case study also is called extended case study when the investigator examines the study or examines the situation in different context, in different areas. This is called extended case study. So, in the case study, we see techniques like focus group discussion, in-depth interviews, observation, participant observation, and analysis of documents. Now, conversational analysis. Conversational analysis considers conversation itself is a social activity. So, even when two individuals enter into a conversation, they enter into the conversation in a social context, in a kind of shared knowledge and understanding of social norms and rules. Conversation creates social order. It uses both verbal and non-verbal signs, right? But conversation analysts have argued that the conversation need to be understood in terms of as a social field rather than the motivations and the context. Otherwise, the context and motivations are ignored to understand the social activity of conversation. It employs the techniques like observation and also recording the conversation through technical devices. Another important method, qualitative method, is phenomenological method. It investigates and describes humans' lived experience about certain phenomena. It could be a religious experience, it could be intense grief, it could be a kind of meeting with the strangers, or it could be some kind of calamity, right? And also it's a kind of transcendental experiences, right? So, it is the perspective of individual, not of the researcher. Well, The experience of one individual also need not be extended to the experiences of other individuals. So, the individual's experience has to be taken in its own right. So, as the kind of research, it depends on the subjectivist interpretation. So, phenomenological method is closely followed in philosophical research. It employs interviews, participant observation, analysis of diaries, personal notes, etc. Phenomenographic method, it is closely related to phenomenology and not to ethnography. Here the graphy only refers to the description of the experience. So, it investigates the experience about the learning in the field of education. It is concerned with the perception, conceptualization of understanding in a classroom situation or in the formal education institutions. The phenomenographic method focuses on the second order of experiences. So, experiences of first order, when a student reads a text, there is a first order experience. When it is read again and understood, it becomes a second order. So, the focus of phenomenographic method is this second order of experience. It employs the semi-structured interview. Then, biographical research method. The biographical research method engages the research into individual's outlook to the social world and experiences in course of life. So, it has been a practice for several individuals to write their own biography. Well, the researchers try to understand the social world the way individuals have understood. So, it employs, if the biographer is alive, then the interviews with the person who has written biography can be considered as a tool. Then other data sources like documents, diaries, letters, the family histories, photographs, some family artifacts, family stories also can be used, right. Then ethnomethodology studies everyday life situations. It focuses on the people's methods of making sense of the world. Ethnomethodology investigates into different methods people employ to place themselves in a comfortable position following the existing social rules. For example, a lawyer, when he practices or she practices law, well, how to become a popular lawyer is not anywhere in the books, but he learns through the experiences of others. Then he adopts or she adopts a particular way how to become a popular very influential lawyer. Ethnomethodology depends on core ideas called indexicality and also reflexivity. The indexicality means meaning creation, how people create meaning through their actions. The secondly, the reflexivity is the creation of social order through conversation. Ethnomethodology employs techniques of conversational analysis, participant observation, sometimes even non-participant observation, interview, and also documents and artifacts. Grounded theory. Grounded theory is a systematic research wherein categories and concepts emerge in course of research that help building a theory as an end product of the research from the empirical facts of a substantial area. It employs semi-structured interviews, focus group discussion, observation, and others. Hermeneutics. Hermeneutics engages in the interpretation of texts by experts with their experiences. The interpretation that arises from a part takes into consideration the entire text and comes back to the part. So it is basically a textual analysis with certain kind of experience. Hermeneutics employs mainly in-depth interviews and focus group discussion. Then comes lifeworld analysis. Lifeworld analysis investigates the subjectivist understanding of social world. So every individual, when he or she encounters the immediate world, through experiences, develops a certain kind of understanding of the world. So when they understand the world as a child, as a youth, as an adult, as a male or a female, as a subordinate or a dominant person, develop certain kinds of meanings, and these meanings can be seen in terms of different layers. So the life world analysis actually tries to deconstruct this kind of meanings and try to understand how an individual constructs the world. So this analysis depends on in-depth interviewing, group discussion, documents, diaries and biographies. Narrative research. Narrative research is a story told and retold. It can be fiction. It can be a sequence of events. It can be a sequence of past events or incidents also. A narrative can be in oral form or written form or sometimes even in biographical form. A narrative can also be a speech event. Right? So in the narrative research, what we find, the subject can be experience with reference to health, wealth, environment, travel, education or anything. So in this narrative research, what we find, that narrator conveys his or her point of view or perception or interpretation and even experience. The narrative could be collective experience or an individual experience. So the narratives are collected usually by employing interview technique, and if it is a group story, group narrative, there will be a group discussion, and if these are documented, and then this analysis of documents also used for collecting these narratives. Now, genealogical method. Genealogical methods actually started in anthropology in tracing out an individual's descent. Who is the father, and then grandfather and great-grandfathers and their children, and also other relatives and their connections through marriage, by adoption or some other ways. Well, this genealogical method has been very effectively used to understand the marriage practices and inheritance of properties, also sometimes inheritance of status, leadership, things like that. But recently, another strand of genealogical method has emerged, that is from history and philosophy. Michael Foucault, for example, he uses Nietzsche's idea of genealogy in studying history. So it focuses historical connections. According to Foucault or Nietzsche, history is not linear, but many times it is discursive. So therefore, the investigators will have to look at not a linear kind of history, one paradigm changing another paradigm, rather one has to examine the discursive relationship of one aspect with other aspects. It employs interview, group discussion and analysis of documents. Now, coming to different tools and techniques of data collection, as I mentioned earlier, some tools and techniques are shared both by qualitative and quantitative. However, let us examine some techniques which are very important for qualitative research. Interview is very important for qualitative research. Unlike the structured interviews used in the quantitative research, in the qualitative research, the in-depth, unstructured interviews are very useful. Sometimes you can use even semi-structured interviews. As the researcher spends long time with the community, there is enough time and opportunities for the researcher to interact with members of the community on different times and different occasions. In-depth interviews, unstructured in-depth interviews of great value, right? However, one has to keep in mind the sensitivity of the issues which are being discussed, and also to take care of some of the critical opinions, in the sense not hurting the sentiments of the respondents, and also one has to respect the views of the respondents, right? Then another important technique is focus group discussion. The focus group discussion is a very useful technique, because at one point in time, several individuals, of course not more than 15 or 12 could be ideal number, participate in this discussion. But here it is very important to ensure that the respondents or the participants should have the knowledge, required knowledge and understanding. For example, if the discussion is about issues of lactating mother, there is no point in including unmarried women. So the focus group discussion necessarily requires married and women having children, right? So therefore, the focus group discussion will have to identify the appropriate participants and also motivate them, express their own views, not simply nodding their heads to the responses of others. Also, it is necessary in a society. It is usual or it is not abnormal to have different strata or different socio-economic groups. And some of the issues are also perceived differently by males and females, and sometimes even age groups. Therefore, focus group discussion has to be taken place according to the status groups, or sometimes even economic groups and gender. Then, observation is also very important technique in the qualitative research. Well, we all know that observation can be very casual observation. Observation can be very covert observation. That means nobody knows that the researcher is watching them. It's a covert observation. But sometimes everybody knows that the researcher is observing, and the researcher also becomes active and inquires to the people about different things. Then it is what we call the overt observation. So this overt observation also taken as a participant observation. So participant observation, sometimes it is seen that, well, a researcher spends time with the community, then it becomes participant. That is not true. What is participant observation means that the researcher has to participate in different activities of the community. For example, if there is a wedding, then the researcher can join either the bridegroom's party or the bride party and participates in a wedding, and then observe different rituals and different kinds of negotiations and different kinds of meanings that emerge in the marriage fixation and also marriage celebration. Right. Then we have another important technique, that is study of documents. As if you can recollect, the importance of documents for studying for studying cases, and also for the life world, and also for hermeneutics, the documents are important. And documents could be diaries, and documents could be official correspondences, documents could be promissory notes, or other kinds. So these documents require a textual analysis, and the documents also require the content analysis. So therefore, the study of documents and searching for documents for information is very important research activity for the qualitative research. Then we have participatory rural appraisal, PRA, which is actually a combination of different techniques and also philosophical ideas from anthropology, from sociology and other fields. But precisely in the participatory rural appraisal, we find three groups of people. One is a group of experts, maybe a planner, economist, and an anthropologist. And another group, the beneficiaries, the local beneficiaries. And the other group, the activists, usually the NGOs. So the PRAs are generally used by the NGOs who are more interested in the community development. Right. So the PRA takes very short time because the local people share their knowledge. And when they share their knowledge, that knowledge helps for the experts to think of a solution for their problems or find out ways for economic development. And the participants participate in this research by interacting with them to transact work, and also informal discussions and FGDs, and they can also visualize their experiences. They can make maps, social maps or demographic maps, and they can also model their experiences, show them the kinds of the rainfall in terms of quantities, and also occurrence of several seasonal diseases. This can be shown in terms of models. Right. Well, very important aspect of participatory appraisal is that the local community engages in the formulation of the solutions and also in the execution of the solutions. Right. So here we see the active participation of experts, beneficiaries, and also activists for the change, a positive change as desired by the community. Then we will find the rapid rural appraisal. It's related to the PRA. The only difference here is that the experts become very active in the decision making, well, with the support of the beneficiaries. And activists, social activists like NGOs, they always contribute for the smooth coordination of these three groups. The experts develop strategies for solving the problems of the community with the participation and support and the knowledge provided by the community. Of course, here the suggestions are implemented by the beneficiaries as suggested by the experts, and the experts may visit sometimes and evaluate the programs and give other kinds of suggestions if there are any problems, and it becomes a continuous process. Two important psychological tests. This is called Rorschach test and Thematic Apperception test. In case of Rorschach test, it is an ink blot test. A drop of ink is dropped on a piece of paper and it is folded. When it is folded, the ink spreads. When the subject is shown this ink blot, then the subject will have certain kinds of imagination, understanding. Right. So then the subjects are asked to explain what is the shape of this ink blot. So with these responses, the expert, a psychologist, discovers the unarticulated thoughts, emotions, and even personality of the subject. This is usually used for the children. Even sometimes adults are also become subjects for this test. Similar to Rorschach test, there is Thematic Apperception test, again a psychological test. Here, a picture is shown to different subjects, and these subjects are asked to write a story looking at this picture. Here the participants are pre-adolescents and adults who can express themselves in writing a story. Again, this test helps for the analyst to discover the hidden emotions, hidden thoughts also, and certain hidden drives also, emotions and personality. These are very important techniques: interview, focus group, discussion, observation, and study of documents, PRA, RRA, and psychological tests. Well, there are many others also, but these are very important techniques used in the qualitative research.